If you want to learn how to make amala without lumps and achieve this perfect amala, Ewedu and Gbegiri combo, this is the video for you. Today, I'm showing you the secret to a smooth amala dudu and an authentic amala buka stew that tastes just like the one from your favorite carton. Hi, my people. My name is Mo. Welcome back. Let's get straight into the process. To make the buka stew recipe, I added my clean chicken into the pot, then added seasoning cubes, salt, and chopped onions. I gave it a quick stir, covered the pot, and allowed it to steam on low heat for about 10 minutes without adding any water. You can use any protein of choice for this, beef, goat meat, or fish. All work well for this buka stew method. So 10 minutes later, I stirred the chicken. I added just enough water to cook it through. I used salt chicken, which doesn't take long to cook at all, and since I didn't need a lot of stock for this recipe, I didn't add much water. By the way, I marinated the chicken with seasoning and salt overnight before cooking today. You can do that if you want, but it is optional. For the pepper base, I used tomatoes, Atarodo, also known as scotch bonnet peppers, Tatashe, and onions. Don't mind the way my pepper mix looks here. They were frozen, so I brought them out of the freezer to defrost, specifically to get rid of the extra water. I really wanted to avoid having too much liquid in the mix because a thick concentrated pepper base is what makes this buka stew recipe stand out. The tatashe is especially important here because it gives the stew that deep red color without making it too spicy. I poured the tomatoes and all the peppers into the blender and let it run, pausing at first to break down the frozen pieces left, then blending until everything was completely smooth. You want a very fine texture so that the stew comes out silky and rich. I checked on the chicken and it had cooked really well, so I separated the chicken and the stock into different bowls and set them aside. In the same pot I used to boil the chicken because I want to keep all those delicious brown bits and juice at the bottom. I added my palm oil and also some vegetable oil. I made sure to allow the oil to get hot enough before adding my pepper mix so that it starts cooking the moment it hits the pot. You can see the pepper mix is very thick. I added a little water to rinse out the remaining pepper in the blender. Not too much water, just a little because we want to keep that concentrated thickness and avoid a watery base. I also added my Pomo at this stage so it could soften and soak up the pepper. Gave the stew a good stir, covered it, and let it cook for about 10 minutes. While that is cooking and the flavors are coming together, if you're enjoying this Amala and Ewedu Soup series, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming recipes. 10 minutes later, I added the cooked chicken and the chicken stock back into the pot, then gave it a thorough stir so all the elements could start to combine. I added more seasoning cube and salt to taste. It is very important that you taste the stew after adding the stock to check if you need to add more seasoning and salt, as the stock already has its own salt level and flavor profile. So I gave everything another good stir, covered the stew, and let it cook for about 10 minutes on a very low heat. Keeping the heat low at this final stage is the real secret to an authentic buka stew recipe. It allows the pepper and the chicken stock to slowly marry together until they become one smooth and delicious soup. For an authentic Abula stew, you want a rich, integrated look where the oil stays combined with the soup rather than floating on top. Once the aroma is strong and the stew has thickened beautifully, you know it is done. Our buka stew is officially ready and looking absolutely mouth-watering. To make our lump-free amala, I poured some water into a clean pot and brought it to a boil. Before this, I used a fine sieve to sieve my yam flour, also known as Elubo in Yoruba. I did that off camera to ensure there were no particles or debris in the flour, which is the first secret to a smooth result. Once the water reached a rolling boil, I scooped out some of that hot water and set it aside for later. Then I started pouring the elubo bit by bit, stirring immediately. In fact, I usually pour the flour and stir at the exact same time. This helps you control the consistency and prevent lumps from forming right at the start. Once I was sure the flour was enough for the texture I wanted, I stopped pouring and concentrated on turning the amala vigorously until the water and the flour were perfectly mixed and smooth. I scraped the turning stick and the sides of the pot to gather everything, then added some of the hot water I scooped out earlier. I poke holes into the amala to allow the water to circulate everywhere so it would cook evenly throughout. After that, I cover the pot and let it cook on low heat for about 8 to 10 minutes. Low heat is very important here. If the heat is too high, the amala might burn at the bottom without actually cooking through. I made sure the consistency of this amala stayed soft and pliable. You see, amala is really not meant to be hard or stiff, especially when you are preparing a proper abula to eat with gbegiri, ewedu and omiobe. Generally, for draw soups like ewedu, okra or ogbono, the amala is meant to be very soft so it can glide easily with the soup. While amala served with textured soup like eforiro or egusi soup can sometimes be a bit firmer, I personally prefer my amala to be generally soft regardless of the soup. My people, let's talk about the proper way to eat amala. I know using spoon to eat swallow is not common these days, but for me, I cannot eat swallow, especially amala with a spoon. I feel like you won't get the real authentic taste of the food that way. There is just something about the connection between your hand and the food that makes it more satisfying. To me, using your hand is the only way to truly respect the texture and the effort that went into making it. It's not just about eating, it's about the full experience of the meal. But I want to hear from you. Are you strictly team hand or have you joined the spoon movement? Do you think the taste really changes depending on how you eat it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. 10 minutes later, our amala was fully cooked. I started turning it again with my stick, working it thoroughly until the water was completely integrated and the texture was perfectly elastic and smooth without a single lump in sight. Now for the best part, the serving. I scooped the soft amala into a bowl, added the creamy Gbegiri soup and fresh ewedu and our rich stew. By the way, I didn't include the step-by-step for the Ewedu soup and the Gbegiri soup in this particular video because I didn't want it to be unnecessarily long, but I have linked both of those recipes in the description box below so you can check them out. This is the ultimate Abula experience right here. If you enjoyed this recipe, please give this video a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more authentic recipes. Thank you so much for watching, my people, and I'll see you in the next one.